I've formed uh, fantastic relationships with so many people from across the world, but also to my colleagues in Gaza, who were simply incredible and inspirational on so many different levels. So, Okaris, you're there online, is that right? Shall
Yeah,
we?
I'm here.
Yeah, perfect. Shall we start with the first slide?
Yes.
Oh, by the way, I should tell everyone from the outset, if there are children nearby or you are squeamish, be prepared to look away. There are some extremely horrific photos, and whilst this is obviously a platform where we're talking with amongst one and amongst each other, please do not try to screen grab or take photos of these images. I'm kind of trusting you, but what I want to do is I want to share the horrors that exist in Gaza. So we arrived, first of all, in Cairo, and over there, many of us had lugged around 10 suitcases each from our different corners of the world, full of medical aid, full of the generous donations from yourselves. And we got to sorting them out as quickly as possible. And then we came into Rafah two nights later. Going into Palestine for the first time was an incredible experience. I really remember smiling from ear to ear and thinking, my God, I am in Palestine. You know, the land that we've always dreamt about our entire lives. Some of us have never obviously made it there before. It was my first time. So it was quite a special feeling. And here you see the I Love Gaza sign just inside the Rafah border crossing. And that's my colleague, Dr. Alia, also of Iraqi descent, who was a phenomenal colleague, her and her husband, who, by the way, left their children behind to serve the people of Gaza. Really inspirational couple. This, sadly, this sign, this, if you like, postcard moment is now sadly a memory because that sign is now destroyed. Next slide, please, Okaris. By the way, Okaris, if you see okay, you've put some things together. Okay, so this is not the order that I would have had it in, but nonetheless, this is obviously horrors. So we won't dwell on this image too much. Let's just flick back to the image before. The top right photo was an image that was sent to me before I ever got to Gaza. I wanted to do some homework, so I got my medical student volunteer colleagues to go around and find out for me patients that need my expertise. And there was no shortage of them. That was one man who was injured in an explosive and had his right upper back and shoulder completely torn off. So before I arrived, I was already expecting to see some really horrific injuries. And so I knew that this was this was a major undertaking. I got to asking several of my colleagues from my mentors and so on to support me with WhatsApp groups that I had in case I needed to discuss cases, because I think consensus management is really important and you mustn't lose your evidence-based approach to healthcare and medicine. So that was my primary goal going there. Some of those other images are actually intraoperative images that you will see. They are bits of shrapnel that are inside, embedded in those patients. And what they do, these bits of shrapnel, is they go in and they cut through people. They cut their blood vessels, they cut their nerves, they smash through their bones. And my background is not only orthopedic surgery, but I do brachial plexus and peripheral nerve reconstruction. And that's actually my forte, as well as microsurgery. But peripheral nerve is my area. And so I was expecting, and in fact, I did end up seeing so many different patients. Let's move on, Karis. Let's go. Apologies for this. We won't take up too much time talking about, well, not to look at this image. So again, let's swing back. Yeah. Karis, actually, this order is not, is this the order that I sent the images in? Because it kind of, we're jumping.
Do you want them in that order? And how you sent it?
In the order that I sent, please.
Okay, give
If
me
it's
1 minute.
if it's possible. So if you just flick it back to me and just put the slide, the sharing down, and let me address the audience. So I apologize for that horrific image that you saw, but I will tell you the story of that young man. Now, you might be familiar with him through our social media engagements. He's a 14-year-old boy who was hungry and found a can which looked like a tuna can, and in his hunger opened this. Unknowingly, this was a mine, an explosive, and it tore off his left hand on the scene. His right hand had a few digits remaining, and it blew massive injuries into both his legs. The local team did the primary surgery, which was to stabilize the fractures on both his legs and debride what they could of his upper extremities. The problem is with injuries in Gaza is that these explosives drive in dirt and mud and grit and all sorts of infective material into these wounds. And so wounds become infected. And that's doubled up because actually healthcare provisions there are so severely limited. There are no sterile conditions, not even in theater. I was always battling with flies coming into the operating theater. On the wards, people don't have clean conditions. Actually, I remember very vividly being asked to see this young man who was in his 20s, who had fractures to both his legs. And I was actually asked to see him by one of my plastic surgery colleagues because there was no progress in his case, and he was on the wards for weeks and weeks. But when I arrived, I saw an extremely sorrowful visual, really. This was a young man, cachectic, very underweight, obviously malnourished, and he was sitting in a pool of his own pus, flies everywhere. He had external fixators on both legs. He had a colostomy bag because he had pressure sores everywhere. And I remember looking at this young man and thinking, my God, what have they reduced the people to? This is a human being and is left to rot, essentially. It was horrific, a horrific scene. So there are no clean conditions anywhere. There's very few specialists that deal with wound management. There aren't the facilities to clean, to manage this. It's just firefighting on so many different levels that a lot of people get forgotten or left behind and develop complications, which creates additional burdens for an already broken healthcare system. So, going back to our young man, our 14-year-old boy, in fact, because of the lack of any way of dealing with infection, and also because of the nature of the injury, we had to amputate both his legs, and so that responsibility fell upon myself. And I remember I amputated one leg and I put that in a cardboard box, which is the norm there. and then I amputated the other leg, and I put that also in the same cardboard box, because you give that to the family afterwards for them to bury. And I remember after I finished the case, I stood and I looked down on this cardboard box, which had two perfectly formed feet, and thought, what have I just done? I've just, cut a child's legs off. Of course, that's what I needed to do, but that didn't diminish from the personal horror of that. And it's just another example of the horrors that exist in Gaza and the difficulties that you have in managing these patients. So, Akaris, can we go back to the set of slides? Are you ready?
Yes, let me share my screen.
So in the meantime, yeah, well, okay. So we actually took a day, well, I took a day off operating. It was the only day that I didn't operate in that entire duration of being in Gaza to visit Khan Yunis. And I think that that was very important to do. What we witnessed in Khan Yunis was like nothing we've ever seen. And I certainly speak for myself when I say that. It was just destruction everywhere you looked. There was not a building that was either not standing or very heavily damaged. The roads were turned, you know, there was no infrastructure, there was nothing. It was as if someone dropped nuclear bombs on this area and completely annihilated it. And I remember I was so sort of lost in that moment that I walked and I just kept walking. And then I found this man here, and I found him clearing the debris in front of his house in some kind of futile way of trying to restart almost. And it would just seemed so hopeless. And I saw him, and my heart really it burned for him. Um, and I I just went up to him, and I was so emotional that I hugged him, and he hugged me back. And I felt that I wanted him to know that the world feels his pain. And I wanted to, because I felt like I was representing many of you, the people that were writing to me, the people that were supporting me. And I wanted to deliver that message via me to him. And it was very emotional. Um, this was the place also where his family were killed. And actually, walking in and around Khan Yunis, you have this smell of death everywhere. And those that know the smell of death, I often describe it as being like a raspy, sweet, but unpleasant smell, and it's everywhere. There are estimates of about 10,000 people who are buried under the rubble. I mean, only God knows how many are. But being in Khan Yunis, seeing that level of destruction really was something quite horrific. Next slide, please. Occurrence. On that same day, we visited Al Nasser Hospital. Al Nasser Hospital was, as many of you might know, the site of the mass graves in its vicinities. It was also a healthcare institution that got directly attacked. And we saw the burned buildings, the evidence of tank fire into the facade of many buildings there. That we saw the graffiti from occupying forces in there. We also saw the body bags outside. And then there was this union of reality and what you'd seen on TV, and you're somewhere in between, and you're thinking, my God, this is where humans were really like massacred. But you also saw the evidence of direct attacks on healthcare vehicles as well. These ambulances, as you can see, crushed, and I saw several. I think there were three that I saw. So we took a mental stock of and a note of what had happened there. And this is the fact that these direct attacks had happened on so many healthcare institutions was a real fear in and amongst the colleagues that we had in the European Gaza hospital, because there was a precedent, and a very scary one at that too. Next slide, please.
The next one's graphic.
Yeah, I mean, I wish there was a way for me to know which one's coming up. Can you send me no, let's move on. We discussed this already. Keep going. Okay. So a bit of a mishmash of images here, but let's focus on this child. This was a very difficult day. My colleagues and I attended to this little girl and in fact, her even younger brother in the emergency department. The little boy could probably no older than 4 or 5, maybe even 4. Had burns everywhere. We attempted CPR on him, and my colleague, Dr. Shah, did a fast scan of his abdomen and found that his abdominal organs were completely unrecognizable. The injury had shredded his intra-abdominal organs. His spleen was not recognizable. His liver was not recognizable. And then we scanned his heart, and it was empty, and it obviously was not beating. And so we very, sadly, poignantly called his time of death at that moment. But there's no time to sit there and mourn almost. You have to move on to the next patient, and the next one's waiting. And here we have his sister. So she was had this open fracture to her skull and had very, very severe injuries to her legs, both sides, and an open fracture to her left leg. And Dr. Adam, one of our colleagues from another organization, and myself worked on this child together. She survived, but her younger brother died, and I believe her parents didn't survive too. The image on the right is more of something that I was doing. You can see here, I believe it was a blast injury to the arm, and the majority of the median nerve and ulnar nerve in this individual was gone, which left him with a paralyzed hand. So I had to graft both his nerves at that time. Next slide.
Another graphic one. It's at the ER.
Which one is it? Maybe skip it. I can talk about it. I don't want to, really offend, well, not offend, but hurt people's images with these images, because they're really quite shocking. I think the image that I just skipped actually was one of the most difficult days for me in my time in the EGH. We'd just woken up and we had heard the sirens of the ambulance. Now, the sirens of the ambulance was often something that would happen only in the mornings, because many of the airstrikes would happen at the night during the night, but no ambulance would go to fetch those people. They would be at risk of being attacked themselves. And there would be many a night where we would be in our dorm. So I shared a room with 7 of my colleagues from our institution, from FAJR Scientific, and we would be sitting, and all of a sudden there would be this huge thunderous sound which would shake the entire room. And we would look at each other and think, by my God, this sound means people have been killed. And that was a very difficult realization. We would sit by our window and watch and hear these sounds and think, my God, that's some person and his family killed. That's another person and their family killed. It was difficult. But on this particular day, we were up and they'd come in the morning, and we ran to the ER. And then when we got there were 3 patients that came in quick succession. One was a teenager. He was evidently already dead, already killed. His face covered in dust, and his eyes were fixed and dilated, and he lay motionless. He was obviously dead for some time. And then there was another man who was clinging on to life. I say man, they were all teenagers, clinging on to life. And our team got to him and tried to save him as quickly as we could. We tried to secure an airway. And then one of our colleagues from another organization started putting in the chest tube, because there was clearly a intrathoracic injury. There was something that had penetrated into the thorax, and it was difficult getting an airway because blood was just coming up through the gullet and through the windpipe. And whilst that was happening, then another teenager came through. This person was wrapped in a blanket. So they brought him into the ER, and then they opened the blanket, and there I saw probably the most horrific thing I've ever seen in my life. And in fact, I could be mistaken, but one famous photojournalist from Gaza uploaded a video today, and it resembles what he did. So I'm going to say the most famous photojournalist, and you can figure it out. And there was no head. It was completely destroyed. It was in pieces, and there was a massive wound on his chest as well. I mean, it just did not resemble human. And then I had another experience where I felt I was looking at something so horrific that I wasn't sure whether it was real. And then your mind, like, this was all happening at the same time. And then my mind went to all the images I'd been seeing. And the photo that my mind immediately sort of went to was the quite famous photo, actually, of that person that was squashed by a tank and turned into a human paste. And that's sort of the image I had of the person's head. And actually, that was the moment that I sort of was captured by one of the journalists, and went around the world and was seen, which is when I shouted out, "Hasbi Allah wa ni'mal wakil." And this is often the cry of the Palestinian people. It just came out involuntarily, because at that moment I felt really quite helpless, and I felt that only God really can bring an end to this. So I wrapped up the deceased, or the killed teenager, and then he went immediately to the mortuary. And then I went back to the first person, and I saw his father was next to him, and I consoled him. Then I went back to the second person, and my colleagues and I would been resuscitating him for some time now. But now here's another problem with the healthcare system. First of all, the ER is just chaos. You have staff that have been enduring this for 8 months of killing and ongoing, unrelenting death. They are beyond exhausted. Can you imagine having to deal with that every day for 8 months? I mean, we went in for 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, and many people were, were like, I'm ready to go home now. So there's just a strain on so many different aspects of the healthcare system. In this particular case, we couldn't get blood. There was just no one to get blood, or blood wasn't ready. And we're trying to resuscitate this person. So we made a decision to do a thoracotomy. And we found he had penetrating injury to the heart. So we sutured his heart, and then we were trying to resuscitate. And my colleague and I, Dr. Shah, we were taking it in turns to do the cardiac resuscitation. So you do it with your hand. And I remember this feeling that the heart was completely empty, and it was obviously was not beating. And unfortunately, he had been killed too. So that was a very difficult day, and I spared you seeing the image of that young teenager with his chest open. This is a different image, of course. This is the children that live in the hospital. So the European Gaza hospital is, in my opinion, or certainly wasn't at the start, not a hospital, it's a refugee camp. It's a hospital in a refugee camp. There were patients sleeping on corridors, on stairs, outside, within the perimeter, with tents everywhere. You're talking about babies, you're talking about women, you're talking about, vulnerable people, injured patients, all in the hospital. And they were seeking protection because of the name, the European hospital. And they were seeking protection because they knew that there were persons from other missions there, and that we would offer some kind of human shield for them. Because if we were there, nobody could kill them. But it was a very real fear that the European Gaza Hospital would be overtaken. And many people often used to ask me, are you guys leaving? We heard that you might be leaving. Let us know that you're about to go, because then I have to take my family. And you would have to reassure them, no, I'm not going. And if we do go, it's not because we're running, it's because that's the end of the mission. This is just normal, and so on. But it was a very real fear. So these three angels, siblings, all little sisters, they ran up to me one day, and they would ask me, they asked me to take a photo of them. So I said, fine, I'll take a photo of you guys. And despite all the trauma and the horror, children just want to be children. They just want to laugh and play and have fun. And I actually got some very good advice by one of my surgeon colleagues from London, which is take candy. So I took a lot of candy with me. And every morning I would fill my pockets, and I would distribute it to all the children. I made the mistake one day of doing it in front of everyone, and I just got completely surrounded by kids. And I had to get some help to be able to break away. So I found different strategies, like catching them by themselves or in small groups. Or when they were asleep, I would lay some candy by their head, hoping that they would see it when they wake up. So the children are a real feature of working in the European Gaza Hospital. And it's, that's not normal. It's not normal that you have relationships with so many children in a hospital setting who are not necessarily your patients, just children living there. So that's a very, profound memory that I have of European Gaza Hospital. Next slide, please. My colleagues, what can I say? I remember them fondly. So the image on the left is the phenomenal medical students. This is not an exhaustive list, of course. This is just some of them on that particular day. In fact, this was my last night there when I got the news that I was leaving. So, and also on the far left, on the upper left image is Dr. Adam, the plastic surgeon from the US, who him and I work together closely on many patients. He is a great person, a great man, an inspiration as well. And he stayed back to make sure that all the non-American, non-European personnel got evacuated. On the bottom right are all the nurses and the porters and the guys that I used to, and one anesthetist in there as well, who I spent most of my time with. When I arrived in the European Gaza hospital, I remember the first day I did a clinic because I had that ready and organized before I arrived, and then the day after I got to operating. We would start at 9 a.m. 9:30 a.m. and finish sometimes at the time of FAJR, like 4 a.m. And the medical students were phenomenal. So I just want to shout them out actually. Dr. Ruba, Rahaf, Fatin, and Noor, and also my resident that gave me his CV and asked to work with me because of his thirst for knowledge, Dr. Mohammed Tabash. Fantastic, fantastic individuals. And they would stay with me till the crack of dawn. And also, I also want to shout out my anesthetic colleagues, Dr. Alia and Dr. Samir, who never said no, always facilitated the management of these patients, and would always tell me, yes, this is, we're here to do this work, whatever it takes, whatever hour, no problem, we're with you, which is not your experience in anesthesia, a normal situation. But when your goals are aligned and your missions are aligned, then it's really a wonderful experience. But back to the nurses there. They were really special people, and I remember them fondly, and it was very difficult to say hello to them. So actually, this is probably a good time to talk about the spirit of the Gazan people as well. I know people try to romanticize the situation, and that might be true, but I can tell you my experience. And what I found in them is a people who firstly have a great belief and faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They would pray their prayers on time, wake up for Fajr. They would be kind, they would be generous, they would be hospitable, they would speak with manners with one another. They would work hard despite all the traumas. They cared and they taught me many lessons. I learned lessons in compassion. I learned lessons in how to be, nice to one another, even at times of real stress. And I learned from them how to be patient in the face of adversity, and put really your belief in Allah, and just trust, and just put your trust and submit your will to Allah, which is the definition of being a Muslim, really. So Gaza is not the land, in my opinion, it's the people. So you can destroy the buildings, that's fine. But if you destroy the people, for me, this is the greater crime. And that's, why we have to preserve them as a people primarily, and then the infrastructure second. Next slide, please. So, sure. Let's talk about the evacuation. Is there another slide before that came in the sequence? Let's go to.
No, there's just the videos left.
Oh, okay. Well, the videos would have been nice but I will come to them anyway. So, the time came where we had to evacuate, and I won't dwell too much on this that process, but it came, and it was difficult, and I didn't want to go, and I felt a lot of, I would say, I've been told not to say this word, but I did feel a lot of shame in leaving, because I knew that they still needed us, and would be leaving in their hour of need, and it was extremely unlikely that things were going to change for the better. But I had a commandment from the team leader that I had to leave, and I didn't have a choice. So I reluctantly obliged, and also in the corner of my eye, I thought about my mother, who is 78, And actually, I never told her that I was going to Gaza in the first place. And she found out because of social media. People were sending her the posts, some of the posts that went around. And she found out that way, which was difficult for her. And I know that she was up every night praying and hoping that I would come back. And so I thought about her, and I thought that I have a duty towards her as well. And so I should have probably just go and listen. But I know that nobody took me out in chains, so it was that wrestling with those two emotions. It was very difficult to leave, very difficult to leave. And so this is actually one of the reasons why I'm so desperate to go back, and I'm trying every single day. And I'm hoping to go back every single day. And things have changed now. There's a squeeze on the healthcare system in a different manner. So when we arrived in via Rafah, we would be able to take 10 suitcases each full of aid, things that you guys have donated. And now the entry will be through the way that we exited, which is via Kerem Shalom. And you can only take 2 suitcases. What can you do with 2 suitcases? I mean, you can pack just the absolute essentials and hope that the WHO gets in the rest of the things. But I know that FAJR have ways of working around this, and I trust in that. And so we are working on those problems as well. But in terms of the personal aid that I'm bringing with me, it's limited. Anyway, so we left, and on our route, we were actually confronted by a tank. First time we'd seen a tank, and it had the barrel of its gun literally facing us. And it stayed like that for probably an hour or so. And we was just, we all looked at this and thought, what is the purpose of this? This is clearly to intimidate. We're not going to drive past a tank, are we? But this was, of course, in Rafah, which was now destroyed, and that sign no longer stood, the one at the very beginning. In any case, we actually got past that, and then our consulates were there to receive us in Kerem Shalom. So the Americans were there for the Americans, and the British consulate in Jerusalem were there for us, for the Brits. And we asked them to take us straight to Jerusalem. And we went to Jerusalem. We literally threw our bags in the hotel, and then we raced to Masjid al-Aqsa. And of course, this is the Qubbat al-Sakhra, which is the famous one. This is not actually, excuse me, the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Well, people consider the whole territory the Al-Aqsa Mosque, but this particular building is known as the Dome of the Rock. And here you can see me with my colleagues. And Dr. Mohammed Bashir, who was our surgical team lead, he's on the right on that image, a general surgeon, a great person, very patient, and a great humble man, said to me, as we walked around in the very peaceful, serene courtyards of this really holy and special place, that maybe us being there was some kind of way that Allah was letting us know that our deeds had hopefully been accepted, that our intentions were, our acts were accepted in his way and dedicated to him, of course. And that gave me some comfort. And then I truly started to feel blessed. But these 2 days were very necessary for us because after you go through very stressful, traumatic experiences, you need time to decompress. One of our colleagues was quite keen for us to have this time, and I found it was very therapeutic to be there in this very holy place, to be able to be emotional, to still be with one another and talk about the experiences and how how that might have changed you, and it does change you. You are definitely a different person. And we saying goodbye to these people, my colleagues, was very difficult. It was such an emotional thing, an emotional experience, because we'd lived this very difficult time, and we'd seen horrors together. And but all our intentions and our acts were aligned, and it was when you come together for something so noble, then your connection, your wavelength is just on a different frequency. It's really something special. So this was the Jerusalem experience. Next slide, please. So this is the example of the tank. So this is the photo of the tank that was facing us. Next slide. Is this a video? Okay.
Yeah.
Probably mute it though, yeah. So let's see if it plays. Of course it's not gonna play, right? Sod's law. In any case, I was hoping to show you a snippet of the scale of destruction within Khan Yunis, which is, but you guys can go on my social media, on my Instagram page, and I've got a lot of these images and videos up there anyway. Next slide. This is the explosive that our young 14-year-old boy opened. Well, it wasn't obviously this one in particular, but this is what it looks like. To a hungry person, this is food, right? Why else would it be lying around everywhere? But we are told that they are left with intent to create secondary injuries and secondary tragedies. Next slide, please. This is a very powerful video. I don't know if it works. Well, yeah, sadly it doesn't. Maybe if we give it some time to load, I can talk about this. I'd finished operating. I think it was around 1 a.m. I'd gotten back to the residence where we stayed, and I was talking to you guys through my stories. I was telling you about, as I do, I was telling you about my day, and then I heard this loud explosion, which is actually picked up in the video itself. And in some very strange and ironic, or I don't know what the word is really, way that strike happened to bring a set of injuries to the hospital 1 or so hours later. So actually, while I got into bed, I got called from our team leader, from the CEO, Dr. Mus'ab, that we were needed in the emergency department. These people weren't brought in by an ambulance, they were brought in by other people who also risked themselves. So there were 4. Now, this is another example that highlights the problems with the healthcare system there. Here, so you can play it. So here you see myself and Dr. Ahmed, vascular surgeon. I'm revascularizing sorry, this is horrific, guys. Revascularizing the left hand, and I was managing his significant bone injuries. It was like a 70% amputation of the left hand. My other colleague, Dr. Sayed, was doing an amputation of a mangled right leg, and here you have Dr. Mohammed Bashir and Dr. Omar Al-Taji attending to his abdominal injuries. So this man had open skull fracture, had shrapnel into his abdomen, he had partially amputated right hand, he had a mangled right leg, and he had a huge soft tissue defect. We also had Dr. Samir and Dr. Uthman managing his medical status. So resuscitating him. So we worked from that time till 7:30 a.m. So we've been going for so many hours at this point. Actually, I remember when I was writing the op note, I fell asleep writing the op note. But we did really, I thought we worked exceptionally well, and we had to stop operating because he was becoming unwell. So he went to the ITU, and the critical care colleagues led by Dr. Osman and also Dr. Samir and also Dr. Alia from our anesthetic team, they were really doing their absolute best to keep this person alive. And they did, they were succeeding. And we thought he was going to die, but he didn't. And then we took him to theater again because now he started to develop signs of infection because of this really horrific abdominal wall injury. And I remember when we were cleaning this wound, we were scraping out gravel and dirt and mud and shrapnel this big from his back. It was horrific. And then he went back to ICU. But then, unfortunately, and actually, this was one of the biggest blows, actually, because of all that, the amount, how hard we worked to save this man. He died. He was killed. And he died because there was no access to dialysis. Which brings me on to another really critical point within the ICU. And really, what I will say is this: come back for tomorrow's talk with Dr. Uthman, and he will tell you some really horrific things about management of patients in ICU. So I'm not gonna go into that. I will just tell you, please come back for tomorrow's talk and hear Dr. Uthman, because you will learn something that will shock you to your core. So he ended up dying, sadly. And that was one of the biggest blows I remember, actually. It was very sad. So on the left here, we have a video. Do you want to play that, Clarice? This was from the dorms. You won't hear it, unfortunately. You will see. Oh, no, I don't think actually I got the right video. Yeah, no, it's not the right one. That's okay. Move on. So this was one of the nights where we'd see the strikes. And actually, I have a clip that's on my social media. You can go and see it there, where I'm probably 1 kilometer away from the strike, possibly even more. You see the night sky light up with the flash of this explosive from a fighter jet clearly. And then you hear this loud, thunderous sound. And then the shock waves from that explosive from 2 kilometers away pushed my phone away. It's just staggering the severity of these weapons against tents. It's staggering, this discrepancy in power and ability. It's really mind-boggling. I'm not sure I remember what this video is, but let's see. Let's try it anyway. Oh, this is an example of the phone calls that we used to get. So I was with some of my colleagues when we found out, and this actually it raises a very important point. You can move on from this actually, because yeah, change the slide. Yeah, you'd get these. So this was actually my colleagues in the safe house who got that phone call. I have another clip of myself when I was in the hospital with one of my nursing colleagues. We got this phone call, and it was an evacuation order. So you get this phone call from this like machine-like voice telling you gotta leave. Ikhla' is what they would call it in Arabic. And this created a huge burden on the services there, because if you had healthcare workers who had to leave, they had to go and grab their families and take them to Al Mawasi, to the tent city by the coast. So there'd be no staff. You'd be there in the theater complex. Several surgeons from the missions. You're ready to operate, but there's no nursing staff because they've had to take their families and flee. And it was a realization that we can come along as surgeons and want to do what we want to do and whatever, but you need to have the entire infrastructure. In fact, you need to have everything from your prep all the way to the wound closure, and then you need therapy, and then you need a system that can track the patients, and you can follow them up and see them on the wards, because it doesn't exist. They disappear into the ether, and you try to follow these patients up. You're operating, and in between your cases, you have a queue of people waiting for you to tell you about their problems. And these are patients at different levels, all right, in their time frame. So they could be new injuries, or they could be old injuries that have been, you know, when you're in the middle of war, as many of our colleagues were at the beginning, when it was really horrific, like the sort of destruction you saw in Khan Yunis, you're just doing like temporizing surgery to keep people alive. You're not doing a fine-tuning work. And so these patients obviously then start to build up and build up and build up. And now you have a huge proportion of patients who've got bones that haven't healed, bones that are infected, missed nerve injuries. Certainly from speaking from my specialty. And you know, the size and the scale of this tasks gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it becomes overwhelming. And you think, man, like really, what can I do as a person? You can just throw yourself at it and work. And I really tried to work every day from morning till night. I tried my absolute best, and I felt I was just sticking a plaster on a huge crack. This needs such a huge uh, effort, but you know the ability to help now is so curtailed. I mean, you got the teams of EMPs, emergency and medical practitioners that are allowed in are really tightened. There's only so much you can do, but there is so much that needs to be done, and that's just staggering. And that's why we really need to continue to put on the pressure to really work really hard to lobby this person, lobby that person to create safe passage, because I think of it as a humanitarian issue. I'm not here to talk about politics. I'm here to talk about the humanitarian issue. I'm here to talk about the human cost. I see innocent uh, women and children and elderly and men. Men can be victims too, but yet, we don't talk about the men here because men can be this or that, but they're just regular people like you and me. Imagine there was a war here and my death would be fine because I'm a man. But that's not fair. It's really not fair. This is one of my doctor colleagues, medical student colleagues, took this video. This is one of the joyful things of Gaza, and maybe we end on that note, where they just want to play. So they would come. They just came all jumped on me. Yeah, you can play it. They came and jumped on me at the same time, and they wanted me to pick them up. And you have a generation that don't have family input. They have a generation that don't have school. They don't have it's like a lost nation, lost tribe. And then you have all these individuals that are limbless or maimed or in wheelchairs. And then you have the exodus of all the intellectuals. Either they've been killed or they've been forced out of the land. And so the healthcare system really is in a terrible, terrible situation. We can move on from that slide. So this is probably a good time to talk about what we can do. Scan obviously that QR code. We need medical and non-medical. People have asked me, can I go as a doctor, only as a doctor? Of course not. But can you get in now? Probably not. Does that mean that you are less effective? Of course not. You can do so many things from afar. Do not underestimate the impact that you can have. We don't all have to be there. I know some of us are very fortunate that we get to go there. And I know there are so many people who are far better than me, who are much better people than me, who would, really love to go there to help because their hearts are so big. And I understand that. I really do. But it's not up to FAJR or any other organization for that matter. These numbers are extremely limited, and you often need to have experience. I know the last time was my first. The next time obviously is not. But things have changed very rapidly. Rafah border was open then. We went in as a team of 17. Now they will only let in teams of 2, or at a push, maybe a little bit more. But there is still a lot to be done. And I know I have several projects going on with FAJR right now in terms of prosthesis and medical education, and trying to help the administrative tasks there, the healthcare system there, the access to food and water and tents and provisions of medicines. You know, there's so many projects. If you want to get involved, please, we welcome everyone. And you will, I know some of you have said, I've sent in my request. I haven't heard anything back. And this is a notification to my colleagues in FAJR. Please, let's try to get back to everyone who has filled in those forms. Next slide. Yeah, okay. Stay connected. Stay connected and also continue to support. We rely on your generosity. I mean, by the grace of God, you really have, blown my mind with the generosity. I know everybody wants to help, and you guys have, like, just for me, for example, you've been donating on my page, and it's just astonishing the amount that you're giving, and I really want to thank you. And that matters. That reaches. That makes a huge impact. That saves lives. So continue to support us. Continue. You can support not only necessarily FAJR, any organization. I can speak for FAJR. I see what they do, and I see that it goes to those that need it. So if you trust me, then you can trust them. But by all means, give to anybody that you want help. That even if you cannot give, do something else. Speak, lobby, rally, get involved in administrative tasks. There's still so much to do. So I want to thank everybody for coming on today. Really appreciate it. And I think maybe do we open the floor for questions now, Karis?
Yes, you have a lot of questions already. Let me start from the beginning.
Yeah, let's start reading them out.
What can the greater public
Can you tell
that
me
have
who's given the question firstly, and then what the question is? Just so you can give some recognition of who the person is.
Abu Bakr?
Okay.
I'm so sorry if I butcher the
I
name.
can read. I can see it here.
Okay.
So, Abu Bakr, is that the first one? No, that's the last one. Let's go to the end.
Scroll to the top.
Okay. Oh no, that is the first one. Abu Bakr, right? Not a question, but assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you. And then from رؤى الفاروق عن اللغة الإنجليزية مو هواية قوية لكن تستاهل نسمعك دكتور. تستاهل sorry. Okay. Thank you رؤى. شكرا جزيلا. العفو، احنا تكلمنا في الإنجليزي فقط، ولكن أنا أقدر كل المشاهدين من الدول العربية. يعني أنا فخور جدا بكم، أو يعني أبناء وطني بالخصوص، لأنهم يعني كتبوا لي ودعموا لي، وأنا أفتخر فيكم كلكم. وشكرا جزيلا، يعني من قلبي القلب إلى قلوبكم يعني. واللي يعني هذا فخر إن إحنا نقدم خدمات لإخواننا في فلسطين. أنا ما شفت منهم إلا الخير والصمود والإيمان، وأنا أفتخر فيهم والله، وأنا مستعد أقدم كل شيء لهم، وشكرا. Someone saying we needed to wear AirPods. Sorry about that. Karis, was the sound bad, or was it okay?
On my end, it sounds okay.
Okay, fine. What can the greater public have no medical background do? I think we've answered that question. From Asma, what are thoughts on lobbying politicians with first-hand experience? Not for this forum. I'm going to steer clear of politics, although I will tell you that I recognize it is a fundamental methodology to changing the outcome. But that's all I'll say on that. Salam to all. Sorry I missed your start from N. Nali. Thank you. What is your plan now with all the worsening events there? What is my plan with the worsening events? My personal plan is to get in as soon as possible, because they need our expertise. There was a direct impact on orthopedics and anesthesiologists for various reasons, and the specialties are in huge demand. I'm also dual trained in plastics as well, and so I can take on a lot of that. And I think being versatile helps. As for the FAJR scientific organization, we are working tirelessly to, to support the people of Gaza, and we have plans, but I will leave that for Dr. Mus'ab to reveal in due course. Master Tahir, not only Mr. Bless you. Thank you. Yeah. So people have asked me, why is it Mr.? Mr. In the UK, we call our surgeons Mr. So FYI, I can hear you both from Sevda. Yeah, thank you for that. I was, it seems I'm chatting to myself though. Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, I'm aware that you guys were hearing us. Hopefully you didn't say anything embarrassing. Anonymous attendee, how did it get involved with FAJR? I just signed up and I went through their process, and as I suggest to you guys to sign up. Anonymous attendee again, with Israel suggesting another 7 months of terror, it's clear no government is actively prepared to stop it. What can we do to stop it legally ASAP? I'm in admiration of your work. If the answer was that simple, we would have already instituted the change to bring about this stop. This is a very political question and it demands a very political answer. And as I said, I'm going to stay clear of that. I hope you understand why. But what I will say is continue to do your best. Don't stop. Don't, be relentless. They, maybe they're relying on you becoming exhausted. If it takes 7 more months of us fighting, then so be it. We will keep going till the very end. And that's what I will say to that. Kamal Wasim, this is so incredibly tragic. Would it have been possible to prevent the amputations if there were ways to get rid of the infections? Good question. If you had resources that you could dedicate to one person, as you would maybe have here, it's possible. But also bear in mind that these are not normal injuries. These injuries, they take the dirt and they embed them into the tissues. So in this case, the bone became necrotic and he was starting to become really unwell. And in fact, when we do one amputation, that's not the end. You had to revise the stumps. So I had to revise his left again. So I had to amputate, revise it, and that was then okay. And then the right side, amputate, revise it, and then I know that unfortunately in my absence it's passed out again, and that needs to be revised. So unfortunately, both his amputations are above knee now, which is just heartbreaking for a 14-year-old boy with triple amputee. It's really, really shocking. Anonymous attendee, the need for surgical medical help Palestinians need currently is unquestionable. Were there any mental health, psychological services you are aware of? Because the trauma they're all going through is something we need to start addressing. So I'll answer this on 2 levels. I'll say the trauma of the doctors and nurses and healthcare personnel, firstly. They are scarred, not just scarred, they are burnt out, and they are, feel crushed, and they feel that the world has deserted them. Nobody is stopping them from being killed, and they just keep firefighting every day. And when is this going to end? Who's going to bring an end to this? I mean, can this continue indefinitely? Really? Are we just going to keep doing this until nobody's left? You can only imagine how they feel. So you have those, and then the patients. Yeah, I mean, I know that there are some charities that are working on this, but how do you help? I mean, if you only have like very limited numbers of EMPs going in, and in terms of the local services, the healthcare system is destroyed. I'm sure that they exist, but nowhere near enough as that they need. So it's another tragedy. From Haq, telemedicine, salam, painful to withstand your description. May the blessing of Allah be with you. What differences do you see in before and after Gaza medical mission? Do you see in you? Jazakallah khair. Thank you for your words. I definitely feel like I'm a different person now. I feel that. So look, I'm preparing to go back again. And this is no small feat going into this area. And I saw it in amongst many people that after 2 weeks or after their exit is denied, people start to really become very stressed out, and the awareness of being killed is real. I mean, we were there when a UN member was killed, because when you want to travel around within Gaza, you have to notify an organization called OCHA, which then notifies IDF, and then your route is planned out, and so you can go from A to B. These guys were going from A to B, but they took the wrong turn and were hit with a tank fire. And one person killed, the other one injured, and she came to our department. That's real, and we know about the World Food Kitchen staff that were killed. These voices are very loud, but I made my peace with all of that, and I went in and I was prepared for everything. And I've posted recently on my Instagram page a very profound experience I had when I did an istikhara, and if you want to go and check that out, then go and read it. But inshallah, what it's done, I suppose what it's done is made me feel that if I'm going back, which I want to, I need to be ready to meet my maker. And how would I want my maker to find me? In what state? And that's the main difference. Abu Bakr, you are such an inspirational brother. Jazakallah khair. I mean, people say this to me, and I find it really weird that I'm inspirational. I don't think I'm inspirational. I think I'm just like you guys. I was just lucky enough to be able to go. And if some people are inspired by it, then alhamdulillah, I hope that it can maybe turn the hearts of some people that may be hesitant, or I mean, I doubt very much that any of you are hesitant. I know that you're all desperate to go. So, but maybe it can convince those that are on the fence, that not necessarily to go, but to do more, to act more. That's also just as important, if not more important. In fact, I've also said this recently. I believe that the most important voice right now is the silent voice, are those people that haven't spoke out, those people that are afraid to have consequences for speaking. We need to empower them to speak, because that's when the tide will turn. I mean, did you face a lot of resistance, family? Oh my God, yes. Not actually from my brothers, the ones who I told when I was going, but my mother, I didn't tell. I didn't let her know. She found out when I came back. In fact, she was waiting for me at the airport, which was a very beautiful moment. I will never forget, because it was wonderful to see her. My mother is against the idea of me going again. Many people have said to me, look, you've done your part, let somebody else do their part now. But that's not how it works. I haven't done my part. There is still a lot of work to be done. And actually, what I said to some of my family that were trying to convince me otherwise, I remembered the saying of our Holy Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and what I said to them was, and I'll say it in English so they don't have to translate it, but if you put the sun in my right hand and the moon in my left, so that I would abort or leave this mission, I will not. I am dedicated to this cause, and nothing will stop me, because I had a very profound experience, and I know that this is the most important thing I can do in my life. So Jazakallah khair for your questions. Are there any specific medical experiences, professions the mission is looking for? I would just say, and as for Arabic, some people came without being able to speak Arabic, and the organization is so good, FAJR, that they would get you a volunteer to work alongside you, so you don't have to, and you can work around it. If you speak, it's better, because then you can have that patient interaction, which is direct. I will say that being from Iraq, the people of Palestine love you, and that was great for me personally, and also for Dr. Alia. And that was very powerful. They really, really love Iraqis, and I mean, they love all people. But we have a connection, special connection, because we've been through terrible times as well, as have many nations, of course. But just apply and then hopefully we can see where you're drafted. From A. Abid. Hello. First of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Mohammed and his colleagues for the humanitarian efforts. I'm, as Iraqi, really proud of him and his bravery. The question is how we can help him with his humanitarian mission in addition to donations. Not that I'm working in the Iraqi Ministry of Health. So I should say شكرا جزيلا وبارك الله بيك على شعورك الطيبة رحم الله والديك. أنا خادم وأنا ابن الوطن وأنا فخور بكم وحب محبتكم. So I just basically essentially I thanked him, and I'll just translate that briefly in English. As for what you can do, unfortunately, people from Iraq are not allowed to go. So if you have Iraqi citizenship, you're not allowed, and that's not because of the residence. So obviously you figure it out. What can you do as Iraqis? So I know that you can deliver more aid through the UN. I know that you can work within the political structures to influence more things there. And if there are methods of extraction of really severely injured patients that cannot be managed locally, then that's another thing. Developing a process where we can help with the prosthetics. Iraq has a lot of experience in war, so maybe the lessons that we learned, I mean, I cannot even begin to teach yourselves. You know far better than me the lessons that we've learned as an Iraqi nation through our experience of war. I mean, what would you have hoped for? And that's the things that I would say. And if you're representing the Ministry of Health, then please get in touch with the FAJR organization and let's work at a higher level. Anonymous, what kind of systems did you have to adapt to be able to manage all these trauma cases? So yeah, I mean, I think I know what you're asking. And you go in, you don't have knowledge of the system, you have to figure it out. So you need to have enough experience that you can work with anything. And I coined this expression there, and probably others have done as well. But if you can operate in Gaza, you can operate anywhere in the world. I'm an incoming MSN1 right now and feel very inspired to help. Is it important to speak Arabic? I only know English. No, don't need to speak Arabic. Please apply. Noor, how can I help as an infectious diseases physician? Any opportunities for remote consultations? Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So put your name forward. We need infectious diseases. The problem is we don't have, for example, a capability, certainly not at the EGH, to culture other than just do swabs. So you can't take tissue and send it to the lab, which is a real problem. And we have so many infections there. It's mind-boggling. And obviously then you have problems with the access to all the antibiotics that you might need otherwise. But I mean, I'm working on remote consultation. So I've set up a radiology service. I'm trying to set up, we're trying to integrate the EGH into an already existing pediatric MDT, which has got an international faculty in there. So much to do. Okay. Nicola Reyes, there's a baby in Gaza with cirrhosis of the liver and large spleen ascites. She had an urgent procedure that drained the fluid and abdominal cavities. She needs a transplant. They say Gaza doesn't have the treatment. Bring a spice. I send the mothers. I mean, send us the information directly to Karasa. If they need to get in touch about something like that, is there an email? So specifically to us help a patient.
I would say to email the info@fajr.com.
Okay, so
It's in the comments.
Nicole Reyes, please info that family information. We try our absolute best to help individual patients, so we will take that very seriously and we'll do what we can.
We do, and then we also have the FAJR free pharmacy, so we supply medications for families and people in Gaza. So we will help anyone that we can.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. That's why I support the organization. Huda Al-Zubaydi, can't imagine the state of healthcare system in Gaza. Keep thinking of patients and the wounded. When there is nowhere for them to recover, how are hospitals and theaters still operating? You are doing Allah's work, honestly giving us hope and humanity during these dark times. We're praying for you and people of Gaza. Thank you, Huda. Jazakallah khair. I'm just a servant. Really, the heroes are the people of Gaza who've had to endure, and they are the ones doing God's work. We are just, we dip in and out. It's really when you get to see it firsthand and you think, oh my God, there's so many problems. Like it's such a huge task, but we have to not give up. We have to continue. We just chip away in many ways. But if we can all fall under an umbrella and work synergistically, then maybe our impact will be greater. So please put yourself forward. Is there a way to donate from inside Iraq? Yes, yes, directly through our pages. Thank you, Dr. Huda Jamal. Mariam Nasser, what specialties are needed? Is it just surgical? No. Every specialty is needed, Mariam. Every specialty. Put your name forward. Dr. Rahma, assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum salam. Anonymous, what precisely did your mother say to you when you finally spoke to her after leaving Fars? She was happy. She was obviously proud. At this point, I was obviously alive and well, so there was no need to rebuke me. But I tried to plant the seed that I'm going back because actually, I know I filled in the form for the second mission before I'd arrived in Jerusalem, and I planted that seed, and I've been working with her, and inshallah now she'll be ready. I pray for her strength and her patience. I ask all of you to pray for her too, so that she can endure, and Allah, give me her blessing, inshallah. Jamilia Humadi, are there any particular requirements for volunteering in terms of affiliation region? No, medical, non-medical, everyone's welcome. Thank you. iPhone. Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum salam. Thank you so much, doctor, for all your efforts. I would like to know, how can I join federal legal team as a lawyer? We need lawyers, Akaris?
Sorry, say that again?
We need lawyers as well?
Yes, of course. We'll take
We need
anybody.
everyone. That's the answer.
The QR code
I
is
knew
on the
I knew the
screen.
answer. I just wanted to engage you. So the answer is yes. We need every type of person. If you imagine what you need to start a society again, lawyers, engineers, project managers, experts, physicists, everything. You need everything. And we have big, big, big plans. So I'm not gonna speak on them. I know of them, but I cannot tell you. But they're big plans, and we're gonna need everyone. So please.
Just to
What's the
add something
target?
to that, if
Yeah.
you guys keep watching this, we're actually making this into a whole series. So on the very last day of the series, we'll be able to talk about these big plans. So just keep tuning in and watching, and then you guys will be able to be updated as well.
Yeah, inshallah. Inshallah. Perfect. Hi, any organization that works with pediatricians? I'm finishing my pediatric residency in the US next month. Yeah, everybody works with pediatricians. We had pediatricians with us on this mission. So yeah. SN, Assalamu alaikum. This might be a silly question. I apologize if it is, but have any psychiatrists been sent to Palestine or someone about the system for our support, but given the immense suffering on the medication is also available? Yeah, so yeah, I mean, but I think you can work remotely. So if you don't have to be directly there because of limited numbers, then you would only be working remotely, but your intervention is just as powerful as anyone's. So we can, and you can make, if you formulate like a list of patients and what their requirements are, we get those medications. We have the FAJR, free FAJR pharmacy. So we can work on that. Tanisa, is there need for specialized pediatric skills? Yes, yes, there is. Please apply. Very inspiring. May Allah protect you, our dear hero. We want you safe from N Mali. Not a hero, but thank you for your words. Inshallah, we're all inspired by each other. Malik, assalamu alaikum wa alaikum salam. Love you for the sake of Allah. This is you reminded me of my experience with my colleagues from Fajr. We would say that to each other on our last night with each other. We would love each other for the sake of Allah. And yeah, you reminded me of them, so thank you for that. I'm a doctor too, and you ignite my passion to train as a surgeon. If you could choose any other specialty, would you still be an orthopedic surgeon? I actually, I actually try to stay away from the label of an orthopedic surgeon because I'm, mainly a brachial plexus surgeon. But I was very blessed to do to be trained by some of the best surgeons in the world, and that included plastic surgery as well. So I felt that in the end, I ended up being versatile enough to help, but they definitely need orthopedics. And if I would do orthopedics again, I mean, I don't do knee replacements or hip replacements, but it's a wonderful specialty. Rand Adil, God protects you all and thank you for everything you are doing. Thank you very much. Thank you. Dr. Rahma, I would like to thank you for your humanitarian mission and vision. Thank you very much, Dr. Rahma. I appreciate you. iPhone 6, are there any opportunities for obstetrics and gynecology senior trainees to volunteer, if not at the moment? What can we do in the meantime to prepare? So maybe not as a trainee, I don't think. But that doesn't mean you cannot help in other ways, and it doesn't mean, that there might not be a role for you in the future. A lot of these problems are chronic. So just stay ready and be prepared and work on what you can. You can do other projects within your subspecialty that maybe only you can really understand and the rest of us cannot. So do not be disheartened. Farah, assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum salam. I just wanted to firstly thank you for your immense bravery and compassion. You're an inspiration to us all. I wondered how the hospital is able to function properly with the electricity outages and what happens to unfortunate people whose lives you're unable to save. The electricity is a problem. In the EGH, it would cut off nearly every session, every operating day. It cut off, everything was switched off, and you'd have to start everything again. The other hospitals have faced critical shortages. We know Al-Aqsa Hospital in Deir Balah in the west, central sort of area on the west, was on its last knees the other day until it received an emergency last minute supply. I mean, it's a real problem. I mean, you have to ration your fuel for hospitals. Like, what is going on? Often you think to yourself, what is going on? It's insane. Shohana iPhone, our hearts bleed for our brothers and sisters. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your efforts and grant honor to our entire ummah once again. You have inspired us. Ameen, inshallah. Faiza, assalamu alaikum. Thank you for arranging this webinar. May Allah bless you. And the team in abundance, I look forward to volunteering for FAJR. Inshallah, we look forward to seeing you with us. Dr. Rahma, my question is, how can medical doctors from Tunisia join FAJR mission? I don't know. I don't think there's a block on Tunisian volunteers. So go for it. We had one Egyptian, one Omani with us in our team. It doesn't have to all be Americans and Europeans. So please just put your name forward. Yeah, salam. What's the plan to rebuild the health system in Gaza? May Allah bless you. Okaris is typing an answer. Are you typing an answer to that question from Aya?
Yes, I am.
Perfect. Anonymous, for entrance and exit, do nationality matter? Western passport versus global South passport. Yeah, unfortunately. But hopefully not. So this is a bit of a difficult question to answer because, the world is such that the American passport and the Europe comes first, and then Europeans are second, and then the rest of the world is third. But the WHO exists to support all the other personnel. In fact, for everyone, really. WHO is the umbrella that everyone deals with. Do not worry. The WHO will look after everyone. But for entrance, it depends on the organization. Haneen, salam alaikum. What is the prenatal care like for pregnant patients? Do you have access to getting ultrasounds? Do they have sonographers to scan them? So I'm actually one of my she's not a direct colleague, but I would call her a colleague from London. Has asked me to take an ultrasound for a obstetric clinic that is being set up there. I know that there are some scanners, and it's not my specialty, so I don't know exactly. But there are some things, but it could be improved. So if that's something you're passionate about, please get involved. Anonymous, are many people also dying from long-term illnesses? Very good question from anonymous person. Imagine that this society, life carries on, like anything like normal, right? So you have people that fall over normally and get injured that are there, and then you have elderly patients that break their hips that come in as well, and then you have people that get sick normally come in as well. I mean, you have normal things that, you know, entire healthcare institutions are built for, and in some cases struggle to cope with. And on top of that, you have unrelenting bombing and hitting and killing and maiming. Can you imagine what happens to a super stretched out system with no real provisions for healthcare? Just picture this for a second. Then you can try to somehow understand the human catastrophe there. But yeah, they all carry on and they are dying from those problems. Anonymous, how many resources were available in the way of prosthetics? Not many right now. But there is a problem trying to get the prosthetics in now as well. I mean, we have to try to work with that. Karis,
Yes.
let's make a note of that as well. I mean, we're working on that in the meantime, but I wanted to talk to you anyway about our methodology for bringing in all the prosthetics in the future.
Yes, of course. It's part of the bigger plan. So again, stay tuned.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, we're
It's all
building
in the works.
it's all in the works. We're building a database right now with our colleagues, and you know there'll be plans for this all. So thanks for the question, Zainab. Another anonymous. Thank you back. Zainab's iPhone. Thank you so much for your great work and solidarity. May Allah bless you and reward you. Thank you very much. Apart from protests, donations, boycotting, and sharing on social media, what else can we do? It's horrifying and heartbreaking. Zainab, I feel your pain. It feels like sometimes this is really you know, like you do this, you do everything you can, and then the very next day there's another massacre. And you're like, but it's not working. But believe me, it does. And they watch the people of Gaza, they watch, they see. And I remember being with them and they were like, look at the American students, look at the university students all across the world. It gives them boost. If anything, that if for them that's worth it to boost their morale because you think so there's this belief that they are maybe just a different breed, and people romanticize the issue and say they're a different breed and they're born to deal with trash. No, they're human. They're like you and me. Yeah, they have a great belief system and their faith is really strong and that helps them. But then I think the second thing that helps them is seeing the world rally behind them because it really is powerful when you have that and you really feel supported and you feel like you have an extra, like there's an extra gust of wind in your cells that you can go forth. So don't don't you know, stop, keep going. Tabi Khan, do you experience any intimidation or objections by the IOF in carrying out duties in hospital? Did they or do they enter the hospitals and cause issues? Or did they regard your team with contempt? What is their treatment to aid workers of the experience? So they didn't enter the EGH when I was there. I know that they've now entered into Khan Yunis. They have entered other hospitals, and we know how that happened. What happened there with Al Nasser and Al Shifa. So the first time I met them was actually in Al Aqsa, which is outside the remit um, of my discussion here. Amira, thank you for everything. Jazakallah khair. Shukran. Is telemedicine used in Gaza and now help? So they have, so in some institutions, there is some internet access where you can run some telemedicine. I mean, today I was involved in a international pediatric MDT where we linked up with another hospital to offer some opinions. So it does work. And I think that's the future of trying to get around some of the issues there. And we just need to build and augment that. So yeah, it's there, but it's very primitive because you know, sometimes there'll be no network. You know, then that system fails completely. But what can you do? You have to keep trying. Jamila, there's so many questions, mashallah. Jamila Hamadi, in your opinion, is there a need for more visibility about such humanitarian activities on social media? Oh, sorry, media outlets, not in art. Yeah. How do you turn the minds and the hearts of people that are silent? Because I told you those are the voices that we need to win. So do it, carry on. Sometimes an expression of art might turn some people. Sometimes being able to reach those people with some form of expression on social media might get to them. we need all the voices that we can get, because that will turn the tide, in my opinion, and bend the arm of those that make the decisions to stop this. Halima Talaq, I just wanted to say on behalf of the healthcare workers around the world who can't go to Gaza, we want to say big thanks. You've done what we are expected to do at this time. Thank you, Halima. I appreciate you. As I said, I feel obviously very fortunate, very lucky that it happened to be me, but there are so many people that are far better than me that cannot go in. And, I understand this sentiment. I feel that, and I see it in so many people that I speak to. So I want to thank you back for everything that you do. And you just, inshallah, so for example, when I went and I hugged that man, when I say that I felt that I carried the love of everyone who had wrote to me and supported me, and I delivered it to his heart, I really felt like that. That was my approach in my mind. I hugged him, and I hugged him on behalf of all of us. And so when I go there and inshallah, and I do some of the work there, I do it on behalf of all of us. Anyone who supported me, anyone who donated, or collectively the FAJR organization, I do it on behalf of us all. Actually, and this reminds me of something, and maybe not directly related to what you asked, but it's inspired me to recount this nonetheless. And that is that, you experience the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your life, of God in your life. So what if I told you that you are in a place where people are being oppressed, are being killed? Do you think that God's eyes will not be on that point? Of course they will be. And so when you are there and you're operating and you're helping these people, and you're there with really beautiful people who inspire you, then you really feel the presence of Allah so much more. You grow into that awareness, you grow into that experience. That's something that I will never forget there. I don't think I've ever felt that connected, and yeah, I know that was a blessing. I'm sorry. So, okay, Manal, thank you. No, sorry. Now that you are back home away from the trauma, that I'm sure you saw, what impact has it had on your mental health? We didn't need to really come back before we started to see the effect of this on the mental health. I mean, we saw it in people there, colleagues there. It's difficult. Of course it is. It's not normal to see dead children and women and innocent people with horrific injuries. This is not normal. So of course it affects you. And so those who really wish to put their names forward, you really need to be aware of this. It's a life-changing experience. I personally feel I had my moment, and as I mentioned earlier, and I've referenced it on my social media, where I had a turning point for me, and I feel, alhamdulillah, although it's changed me, but I feel, I don't have PTSD or anything like that, but I had my emotional experience in Al-Aqsa with my colleagues, but now I'm just ready to go back in as soon as possible. Kamal, Wasim, I've been told by my advisors to not talk about Palestine because it would risk my future career if my medical school finds out. Nonetheless, I have no intention on speaking about this because I feel it's quite hypocritical. Take an oath to save lives and not speak about the unjust violence. Do you have any advice, experience on navigating through this? Yes, I do. What I would say to you is this: if you don't go political, focus your talk and your speech on the humanitarian cause. Nobody can question that. So focus on that. Just focus on talking about that people have a right to have access to medical services, that innocent women and children and innocent people should not be suffering, and no one can negotiate away, or talk you out or criticize you for calling for human values, because these are consistent with us all. Asma, as a husband, thank you for your service, a true hero. May Allah grant you the highest rank in Jannah without hisab, and may we all unite in Gaza one day. Thank you, Asma. Honestly, the people of Gaza have inspired me, and it is an honor. It is an honor for me to go and serve there. I'm not a hero. They are the heroes, and you know, I just want to please Allah, and I want to help those people. Huda, thank you so much for sharing your experience with brutal honesty. Having followed your video journeys on the star, there was clearly a rollercoaster of emotions from hope and excitement when arriving to fear and despair during the bombardment at night to determination and strength. How did you draw strength during your time there, especially after times of despair? There seemed to be an energizing team spirit within the hospital. Yeah, thank you, Huda. Very good question, or comment rather. We banded together. It's great to have those brothers and sisters from all across the world with whose missions are aligned, whose goals are aligned, and we grew into that experience together. And yeah, there were scary nights, of course there were. When you know, I'm not used to hearing bombs or hearing tank fire very close, or I'm in the room and the room shakes, like the door feels like it's about to become unhinged. That's the reverberation of this explosion. It startles you, and it happens again and again. You're like, my God, what if a mistake happens? You know, I'm gonna be killed here? But you have to make your peace with this when you go there. You have to be ready. I think this is the difference. I was just curious about your journey to UK from Iraq. I was born in the UK. Um, Shahana, how has your relationship with Allah changed from before to after your trip? I think I answered that question. Thank you. Very important question, but it's basically ready to meet Allah anytime. Inshallah, that's the goal. So it's incredible what you and your team are doing. How are follow-up dressings or revision surgeries managed given their limitations, staff resources, and exactly, Allah. How is this happening? So it's very important for a surgeon that's going there to keep. So I worked with an exceptional team who I tried to instill my organizational ethos and my vision of how my team should run. And we have a database of all our patients, and we are trying to follow them up. And my good local resident, Dr. Mohammed Tabash, is seeing my follow-ups there. You have to have those plans implemented, arranged, and also my other uh, junior doctor colleagues, Dr. Noor, Dr. Fatin, Dr. Rahaf, and Dr. Roba, of course. I'm engaging with them on a daily basis to manage these patients. So I haven't stopped. You don't come back and forget your patients. My phone is full of ongoing care for these patients. And this is a commitment you must make. Do not go there and think you're going to do 2 weeks of being a hero and go home. No, this is a lifelong commitment. You must care about your patients. You go there, you serve them, you do not forget about them. If there are problems or complications, you have to find ways to deal with that. So that's very, very important. So if you come to do work as a surgeon, you have to be prepared for everything. I think the most important thing is follow up. Great question. Thank you. Pablo, I'm in nursing school. What kind of nursing specialty experiences should I focus on to help me in future FAJR ground missions other than learning Arabic? Pablo, I'm not a nurse, but I would say OR and ER off the top of my head. Anonymous attendee, I'm in the UAE, not a medical professional, but want to help in any way possible. Do you have any links? So yeah, as we said, FAJR organization, the QR code's there. We need all lines of work. Ariana, thank you for your work and sacrifices to help the people of Gaza. I'm a healthcare worker. I'm part of a group, Mamas for a Free Palestine in NYC. We are holding a health-related event. Okay. What is the message? Okay, well, hopefully people support this event. We always like to see people work on this behalf, so please check this out, guys. What is a message to say to the Palestinian American youth or any youth here in NYC coming to the event that you think I should highlight about the children of Gaza? They're just children. They want to play, they want to eat candy, they want to have education, they want to be safe. And those that are injured, they are very resilient. They just want to get back to that. So let's help them just be children. And that might take on many things, might take on allowing them to heal their wounds, but also to heal their hearts And of course, many of them may not have families now. So we have to make sure that they have people that can support them, love them, cherish them. And Gaza is like one big family, by the way. So I don't like this idea that people think we can go adopt children there. Nobody wants that. They do not want. They will absolutely be horrified at that idea, by the way. Eileen, Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Tahir. How many checkpoints would you go through in your next trip? I cannot speak about the next trip in that much detail, unfortunately, for obvious reasons. Do you have a list of medicine or medical tools on FAJR Scientific website that we can donate? I'm working with pharmaceutical. Yeah, every type of medication that you need for a society, right? But Karis, who is the best person to address that question to about pharmaceutical donations?
I would say,
Info at
yeah,
FAJR.
yes.
Info at FAJR. Info at FAJR.org.
Yeah, because afterwards it'll get routed to the correct person.
Perfect. There we go. And what's our response time to these emails?
Pretty quickly. I would say, 24 to 48 hours.
There you go. Thank you.
We try. Just remember that we're a team of all volunteers.
Yeah, exactly. No, by the way, nobody gets paid at FAJR. This is all volunteer work. Some organizations pay their staff. Very few, but some do. But this is volunteer work. So yeah, bear that in mind, guys. Nada from Southern Lebanon. I've been following you since you went to Gaza. Thank you. Thank you, Nada. I appreciate you. I have so much admiration for what you're doing. Not a hero, guys, but I want to help in any way I can. And inshallah, you can. My sister from the south of Lebanon, on the head, as we say in Arabic. Just get in touch, and inshallah we can help you. Assalamu alaikum from Amanda, ophthalmologist from Indonesia. Can we volunteer? Ophthalmology is needed. So there was actually, when I was there, there was an ophthalmologist from Egypt, great guy. And he was a vitreoretinal surgeon, and he was doing a lot of work non-stop. But he brought his kit with him, like machines and so on. And it's there are some tragic eye conditions there. Eyes that have been eviscerated, globe ruptures, corneal injuries, foreign bodies from shrapnel that he was taking out of the eyes. All sorts of things. Blasts happen, and there's so many blinded people. This is why one of the prosthetic projects is for eyes, to give people eye prosthesis. Can you imagine we're trying to give people eye prosthesis and limb prosthesis? Manal, yeah, what are the situation like in the lab? We're just using POC tests. Point of care, I presume. There is a lab, but very limited. For example, I'll give you an example. Not necessarily the lab, but the pathology lab, kind of the same. I did a biopsy of a suspected sarcoma, and it's still 4 weeks to turn that around. Yeah. So blood tests, there's not a lot, and micro, just swabs, no cultures. It really limits you. I mean, you don't have all the investigative tools that you might need, so it's very limiting. Zoom user, how does wound healing and surgery recover without adequate nutrition? There you go, perfect. Does tube feeding exist there? TPN and NG feeding. I didn't see that, to be honest. Don't think it exists. They don't have those things coming through. Everyone is skinny. Everyone's malnourished. The nurses, there are a lot of nurses who are skin and bones. And I remember many of them, I would touch them in their back, and it's just rib. Like emaciate, like these are the nursing colleagues are all skin and bones. They often tell me, I used to be 80 kilos before, now I'm 50. When I was there in 2.5, nearly 3 weeks, sorry, probably closer to 3 weeks, I lost 12 kilos. So yeah. So imagine the patients, and of course your response to wound healing is severely impacted by not being able to by not having the correct nutrition. So it's like a cycle to the bottom, unfortunately. How many more we got? Okay, still lots of questions. Oh my God. Let me see where was I? Riyadh, Salam Star. What's your experience of blood transfusion? How are they managing Gaza? No, it wasn't great. We had a patient who I gave the story of the one who we tried to resuscitate in the ER where we did a thoracotomy and we trying to get blood into him, just wasn't there in time. There are some blood products and people are donating. In fact, our team members were donating blood as well. Credit to them. Um, uh, nothing is enough, basically. Did you face a lot of questioning upon returning? No. British consulate in Jerusalem were fantastic with me and treated me very well. I tell you the truth. Are there any projects to help university students graduate? Very good question. Maybe through collaborative work with teachers, institutions, and remote learning. This is something that I'm passionate about, and I'm trying to work with the institutions to kickstart the medical education for medical students. I have not really done anything. I just inquired and I tried to put the minds together, but it turns out that they're already working. There's an organization called PalMed, which is working on that. So I give them credit. Hats off to them. There are other organizations too. But hopefully you can get started. But it's, they've been without medical schools for so long and it's going to be purely through remote learning. But I don't know about the rest of the society, engineering, arts, humanities, and the list is endless, right? Oh yeah. A pharmacist is any way we can help those managing long-term conditions. Also, how can we help with medicine management? Oh, Karis, hello.
Yes.
Is the limit 2 hours? Because it's like
Um,
9 minutes. So I'm just gonna keep answering until the
I don't
8
think so.
Okay.
We're gonna close the questions soon, though.
Oh, you're still, is it still open? Maybe close the questions. So I just answer what's left, please.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. How can we help with medicine management? FAJR, free FAJR pharmacy. Get in touch. Amanda, how can we deliver aid to if the Gazas coordinating with the occupiers? You cannot do anything without coordinating with the occupiers. And that's just the way it goes. But they have to pay lip service to the international community by allowing some aid in. Obviously, they didn't before, but they have to let some in trickles. Nothing compared to what you need. And FYI, on the way to Rafah, we saw like I think thousands of trucks that are waiting to get in. And the food and aid is all decomposing there now. It's like, what do you do? Keep going. Anonymous attendee, Salam Tahir, may Allah reward you. Thank you. Has the UK government or police agencies tried to contact you? No, I haven't done anything wrong. Lubna, thank you for sharing your time and experience with us. May I be inspired to be better and come together as one, Allah. Inshallah. Thank you. Sabiha, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. May Allah bless you and accept from your every effort. Thank you very much. Jazakallah khair. Thank you. Thank you. God bless you and your team. Thank you very much. Absolutely remarkable. How are you? And how did you keep yourself well, both physically and mentally, when you were there? Thank you. I'm well. I'm just eager to get back. I thought so. Fitness for me before Gaza was like a cornerstone of my life. I love doing powerlifting. So I took some resistance bands with me. I thought, yeah, I'd probably do like half an hour a day or something. You forget about all of that. I didn't do a single bit of exercise because you wake up, you go to OR, you're living in a different world. You don't have these are all distractions. And it's interesting because, obviously now I've been back and I've been to the gym a couple of times, mainly because of my gym buddy messaging me all the time. But I thought that some part of, masculinity, if you like, existed, and it's not obviously limited to masculinity. Please don't jump at me, but some part of masculinity existed within the realm of being strong physically. Maybe that's a little bit true, but actually, what I saw in Gaza was much stronger from the people, and that had nothing to do with lifting weights. So just a shift in perspective, I think. Shafak, thank you so much. That very inspirational. Makes me want to keep fighting for Gaza. Thank you, brother. It means a lot that you guys find what I say inspirational. Inshallah, we inspire each other. When you say those things to me, you inspire me back. So hopefully it's we climb with each other to the top. Anonymous, did your passion and conviction, did you ever have a moment on the trip where you just broke down and felt that you couldn't go in? Maybe if I was alone, but I never felt alone because I had my team with me. And all the success that I had in the EGH was us as a team. So there's never me in isolation, it was my team. So my anesthetic colleagues, without him and her, Dr. Samir, Dr. Alia, who are often the two that are anesthetized for me, I couldn't have done anything. So those guys are our colleagues in this critical care for the sick, Dr. Athman, he's such a hero. Please listen to him tomorrow. He's fantastic, such a smart guy. Honestly, in fact, he used to wake me up for FAJR, flashing a light in my face. He's a good guy. So alhamdulillah, I learned a lot from him. And he's got really powerful insights he will share. So please come in tomorrow and listen to him. But no, I didn't feel like breaking down. I mean, yes, what am I talking about? Of course, I broke down, but not that it didn't make me want to go in, made me want to go in even more, do more, work harder, stay longer. It was the opposite effect. Shazia, Jazakallah khair for everything you've done and continue to do for Gaza. Thank you. May Allah facilitate your journey back. Ameen. In your opinion, is there a role for GPs, family medicine doctors on the ground currently? And do you feel that would be more appropriate during rebuilding? I mean, as I said, normal healthcare problems still go on. I mean, just because I'm giving you a surgical perspective doesn't mean that all these other things weren't happening. We had a lot of physicians with us and tune in to hear their stories. I mean, come in and listen to what they have to say about their experiences of internal medicine and being a family doctor or being a pediatrician. That's why you have to come and listen to them. Kamal, thank you so much for answering all of our questions. Thank you. Thank you. My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you. Aya, is there an opportunity for training Muslim doctors in the UK to prepare for the types of missions and war? We train all people, not necessarily just Muslim. So yeah, we had some non-Muslims with us, and there are many non-Muslims who attend. In fact, when you walk around in the hospital, all the kids in the beginning say, hello, hello, how are you? Why are they doing that? Because actually, it's been the foreigners, the British, Europeans, and so on from other parts of the world that have been there. So this is not an exclusively Muslim thing. It's a human thing. It's a humanitarian thing. So we have to give credit where it's due. I'm happy and we are all happy to train people of all denominations, anyone who has a heart. So we've heard of phosphorus bombs being used against citizens. How does this affect surgical patients who've been discharged? Okay, so I think that was used earlier on in the war during the time where Khan Yunis and Gaza City were destroyed. Personally, I didn't see it. That's not to say that it didn't happen. But the burns were dealt with mainly by my plastic surgery colleagues, and maybe when you come to the wound care, maybe when if there is a talk by our wound care specialist, you come and listen to what she has to say. Maybe she'll tell you what the consequences of those were. And Ali, this is the most important information I've learned on the medical crisis in Gaza since Dr. Hassan returned. Thank you. Thanks very much. I appreciate you. And I believe that we will find prosthesis solutions. One of the key things is to bring the global limb difference community together due to the tens of thousands of victims of FAJR, Lady Zainab Foundation. Haidar, thank you so much. Lady Zainab Foundation, I take my hat off to you guys. I respect you. And I welcome you to join forces with FAJR organization so that we can offer these solutions for the prosthetic problem. At the moment, I am building a database of patients. We have our colleagues on the ground. We just need some authorization locally to try to build that. But we're going to get onto that. And I've already taken a list of some people who want to volunteer in administrative roles or etc. But we don't need to reinvent the wheel if you have infrastructure already. We just need to find a way of driving costs down so that we can make this, sustainable. Because you will have, if you're based in UK, you will have competing forces in Egypt or otherwise that might offer solutions on a, cheaper. But I take my hat off to you nonetheless, and hopefully, we can work together with FAJR. Please, let Okaris know and we take it from there. Okay, so I'm obviously wrapping this up now. Let me put that question box down. 82 people left that stayed to the end. Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much. I want to ask you all to make dua for me so that I can go back as soon as possible. And then I also want to ask you to remember our Ghazan family, brothers and sisters there, our children, our fathers, our mothers who have been killed. And I want you to join me also into sparing a moment to thinking about all those who are maimed and those who are suffering. And when you have this energy in your heart, don't waste it. Don't just try to expel it by shouting it out, maybe. I mean, it's important to go to protest, but what I mean is don't find avenues like that just to lose the energy. Conserve it, build it, and use it as an energy source so that you can go stronger and harder and be more unrelenting. So thank you very much. I invite you all to come tomorrow to Dr. Uthman's talk, which is going to be fantastic. He's a great person. He has very, very valuable insights, and I cannot wait to hear him talk. And thank you very much to Akaris, Dr. Mus'ab, Dr. Khalid, Dr. Riyadh from the leadership in FAJR. Thank you to all the other organizations, PAMA, Dr. Adam from PAMA at the time, and the other organizations that we worked with, the Turkish Red Crescent, WHO, UN, everybody that strives in this course. So thank you very much. And Kares will sign off, shall we? Everyone say goodbye.